So these blue avians are 8 feet tall. They have a human body again, covered with blue feathers, some of which are violet purple. And there's an intermingling between blue and violet, and it's depending on the individual how much of one type of feather they have as opposed to another. What of the two colors interpenetrate? The face looks kind of like a bird, except that instead of the eyes being on the sides of the head like this, they're closer to the front, but it's still very bird-like. And they do actually have a beak that has flexible movement. And when they speak to you, they speak telepathically. And as they talk to you, they do this hand signaling with their one hand. And so you're seeing them move really fast like this, and you're hearing the words in your mind at the same time. So what's so bizarre about this is that these people appear to be the same group that identified itself in the Law of One as Ra. It's amazing. I mean, this stuff is amazing what's been going on. All of them have a name that starts with Ra'u or Ra. So the two that have been contacting my insider friend the most there is Ra'u Rain Air and Ra'u Tear Air. So those are the names. And it's interesting that the names mean something. Rain Air, like the rain and the air. Tear Air, like a teardrop. And in the Law of One, they describe themselves as the brothers and sisters of sorrow. They say that they have come here to help us out because they created this mess and now they need to clean it up. Well, I heard from this Illuminati guy that told me about the old ones and the Pinder and all those folks that everybody at the higher levels is asked to read the Law of One, which is kind of hypocritical because the Law of One really kind of knocks the Illuminati. But there's so many things in the Law of One that are precisely correct about the space program, about the different ET groups, about the history of our solar system. There's so many things that have a one-to-one correlation with reality that it's just considered required reading, and if you can't handle the Law of One, then you won't be invited into the space program. So then what happens is these beings show up in spheres that are way more advanced technology than anything they thought people could have, because our conglomerate ICC guys, they're building what they think are the best toys. These things are like little frickin' paper airplanes compared to these gigantic spheres. I mean, one of these spheres could just come up and swallow it like the bigger fish swallowing the little fish. So they show up and they made a deal. They worked out a treaty with the Solar Warden people. And although it took a few years to work it out and to create the proper alliance, the Solar Warden people were given technology greatly in excess in terms of power and capability of what any of the other groups, including the Dark Fleet, had. So they have, for example, a technology that they can zap metal with, and the metal instantaneously expands in size. And then as soon as you turn it off, the metal zips back down to the size it was, and you can't even tell that anything happened. How is that useful? It's useful for everything. Because if you want to try to stab somebody, you have to be able to pull the knife out of the sheath. But the knife gets too big to be released from the sheath. If you want to shoot somebody, you have to be able to cock your pistol, and the barrel has to be able to move. The metal expands and it won't move. You can't shoot your gun. So they've been using this technology now around these major events where world leaders are speaking so that no assassination could happen. They can use this technology to stop the bomb bay doors from opening on a plane. They can use this technology to make it so that tanks can't start, so that bunker buster bombs won't go off, so that nuclear missiles won't go off. It has essentially crippled and handicapped the Cabal. All of their toys are made out of metal, and none of them work now that the sphere beings gave the Alliance this metal expanding technology. It was a total game changer. Remember, yeah, isn't that amazing? Superior weaponry means you win. That's why if you got a bunch of guys that are using bow and arrows and somebody comes in with a frickin' flaming cannon, guess who's going to win that war? Not the bow and arrow guys. Well, now Solar Warden has got the ultimate technology. So this technology also includes an indestructible EMP device. And the EMP device can be put into something as small as a quadcopter, one of those little drones. So you hear about drones flying around the headquarters in Paris. You hear about a drone that flies near the White House. There's Russian drones that have flown over American aircraft carrier ships that are in the ocean, and the drone shows up and it just powers down all of the backup systems on the ship. They got no power at all until the drone goes away. So there's sailors that have been stationed on these things, and as soon as they get home, man, they'll take a dishonorable discharge because they're terrified. Because another thing that the Russians have is this very advanced missile technology called the Onyx. And what that means is it cannot be tracked by radar, and it actually zips around the ship like an octagon. And it moves so fast, and it makes all these almost non-Newtonian turns. And it could totally blow up the ship. So all of our, meaning the cabal, America and otherwise, all of this military technology is totally obsolete and useless. There can never be another war. It's all a fake out now. Because we need this golden age. That's what the prophecy said was going to happen. That we go into an age of peace and an age where there is no more war. The Alliance was ordered, the Alliance ordered our government to make the movie The Day the Earth Stood Still. That was something they had to do based on an extraterrestrial treaty with the good guys. In the movie The Day the Earth Stood Still, these ETs show up, and what happens? They say, you have to stop making war, or else we're going to blow up the whole planet, and we'll destroy all your tools of war. They blow up the tanks, they blow up everything. Anybody that tries to make war, nope, it's not going to happen. And guess who comes out of the UFO in The Day the Earth Stood Still? A guy who looks human. But then he has that big robot, Gort, and Gort is the one that gets the job done. He's just the diplomat. So this is what's actually happened. They have come here, and they've given Solar Warden and some of these alliance groups technology that the cabal does not have and has no countermeasure for. And the cabal knows they're in trouble. They're in free fall. They're extremely afraid of what's going on because they are losing, and they're losing more and more. Now, the cabal... Oh, and I should also say this. The latest, greatest aircraft carrier, this was from Pete Peterson. Maybe I shouldn't have said that, but I just did. It's called the Aegis class, A-E-G-I-S. And in November is when they toasted an Aegis with the quadcopter. It had just come off the showroom floor. Brand new, all the greatest advanced, secret, weird technology that they stuck in this aircraft carrier. Putin just flies over a little quadcopter, probably got a toothpick in his mouth, boop, hits the button, Aegis goes, totally powers down. That was in November. The cabal, I don't think there was a dry pair of underwear in the room when that happened. They're done. They're over. Okay, it's already happened because this is what the beings want. And they are preventing the cabal from getting their World War III. That's why you hear really credible insiders that say they're about to do the Patriot Act. They're about to do the big chicken pox or measles or, bird flu or Ebola. Nothing freaking happens. How many people got Ebola? Like one guy. And then he got better. Oh, Ebola, oh my God. We're all going to die. It's just like the Spanish flu. 40 million people died. Well, it's not going to happen now. Israel tries to blow up the Palestinians. Oh, we're going to get war in the Middle East. Oh, my God. Nothing happens. Don't expect a big disaster. If you're one of these people that enjoys the fear porn, says, man, I wish we just get this thing over with. Where's the martial law? I'm ready to go to camp. I'll go to camping. There'll be... There's some... never mind. There's jokes I can tell that just go a little too far. I like camping. Okay, one of the things we did here is that they had all these guillotines that were made to look like Bowflex, Soloflex machines. Because in order to chop the head off, they have this carbide blade, and they have to put weights on it so that it has enough weight to chop the head off. There's whole entire facilities that are just filled with all these guillotines because they wanted to create martial law where anybody that stands up to the military police gets beheaded in this very public ceremonial fashion. Now, some of these breakaway groups, and I do not agree with this, so please don't applaud and embarrass us, okay? Some of the more negative alliance groups wanted to behead all the Illuminati. I do not think that's a good idea. We do not want to do eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, blood for blood here. In forgiveness lies a stoppage of the wheel of karma. Now, the death penalty may be warranted in many cases, but I also believe in redemption, and I also believe that many of these people could become heroes because they're whistleblowers that give us valuable information to bring this thing to an end faster. We already have the technology that can take the salt out of the ocean water, pump the water back into California's reservoirs, generate free energy and any element in the periodic table all at the same time. None of this stuff is necessary. We don't have a water crisis. We have a technology crisis due to secrecy. So this is what's going to be happening. There's lots of cool stuff that's getting ready to happen. So the Alliance gets really, really concerned when this Aegis-class aircraft carrier got powered down. That was in late November of last year. They did something really, really, really freaking stupid. Down there in good old Australia, mate, they had this new technology, the greatest thing they got, the Draco superweapon. This big old frickin' particle beam cannon, super duper laser crazy thing. And they say, hey, we got a great idea. Let's take our super duper weapon that's the best thing we've ever had, the best technology in the galaxy, and let's aim it at one of those fucking spheres and blow her up. Now, if you know about these beings in the law of one, it's based on the free will principle. So what does that mean? That means you cannot fire back unless you're fired upon first. So a lot of these top-level Illuminati people from Canada, Canada's one of the Illuminati countries, we're down there. There's a lot of people out of Ottawa, Canada. We're at this base in Australia when this happened. This was in mid-December. They fired on this sphere with this massive beam weapon. The sphere glowed bright red, and people saw this as a UFO. It was about 1/5 the diameter of the moon. They didn't know what they were looking at, because normally these spheres are cloaked. You can't see them. But it started to glow. The sphere redirected the beam and shot it back into the base, and it blew up the whole base, which I think was somewhere around Pine Gap in the middle of Australia. Almost everybody that was there died, and this was considered a massive, massive defeat for them. They were very upset about this. At the same time that this happened, if you go back and look at my other talk that I did at Conscious Life Expo, I talk about these stasis beings. There's certain beings that have been kept inside a time bubble where basically they don't wake up until the end of the age, and this energetic shift happens. It's now going to happen. So there's approximately 50 or 60 of these stasis being sites around the Earth where these beings from Atlantis put themselves on deposit and said, well, I'm just going to sleep out the next 13,000 years and wait until shit gets really cool, and then I'll wake up and come out for the ascension. Okay, so those beings are starting to wake up, and the first one woke up shortly after they shot on this sphere, and here they thought that this was going to be some Illuminati god that was going to save them. And I told them before this happened, I was talking to my insiders, I said, this guy's going to be some freaking redneck, and he doesn't know shit. That's exactly what happened. They were very disappointed. This being was, I guess, 25 feet tall, giant human, and he was actually like a young, he wasn't even a full adult. His parents were even taller than he was. They had come here from space. They landed on Earth. They didn't grow on Earth. And he put himself in stasis waiting for this big change to happen. And they told the guy, look, dude, you're going to be really disappointed if you go walking around in our planet the way it is now. It's not, the technology you already had before is a lot better than what we got right now. They've been very worried about these beings, that if they see the way our world is and how limited our technology is, that they'll just freak out and start kicking ass, and all of a sudden you got this 30-foot-tall giant smashing up buildings in New York, which would really kind of screw up disclosure. You know, they wouldn't be able to keep things hidden anymore. So they portaled him off with others of his own kind. They brought him back to people of his own kind, and he was heralded for those people as a god. But from our perspective, he didn't really, there was nothing useful. The Cabal was very disappointed about this. So that happens, and then after they shot on the sphere, and the sphere fired back, there was a massive policy shift. Something really incredible has happened. They created a no-fly zone around the Earth. Now, the sphere beings themselves are not shooting, but they've given the Solar Warden people the technology to do this. What does this mean? That means any ET or human, there's lots and lots of so-called embassies on Earth where these ETs live in bases underground. That includes reptilians. Anybody for any reason who tries to fly out of the Earth is going to get shot down. If you go back on my website, divinecosmos.com, and you read my articles, I talk about how these craft were shot out of the sky. And then it looks like meteor sightings, but these meteors in some cases have a little guy that comes out and zips in the opposite direction. They explode, they create sonic booms, they hit the ground shakes for 15 seconds, they have weird colors, all kinds of strange stuff is happening. So, another weird thing is that when they created this no-fly zone, they started clearing out all this old Cold War technology that was left in orbit around the Earth. What am I talking about? I'm talking about one of the technologies is this thing called the rods of God. The rods of God. Now, those are tungsten bolts that are like the size of a telephone pole. And all you got to do is just freaking drop it from space. Gravitational acceleration, 10 meters per second squared. That sucker gets going pretty freaking fast. And it's got a coating on it so it doesn't burn up in the atmosphere, it doesn't give off a lot of light. By the time you're even going to see it, it's going so fast you could hardly see what it is. You drop 3 or 4 of those into the ocean, you got a tsunami. Nobody knows why you had a tsunami. It just happens. You drop one of those over an underground base, and they'll just dig right through the ground. They'll go hundreds of feet down, if not more, and blow up the whole underground base. And what they have up there is they have the equivalent of like magazines, like gun magazines, you know, where you have all the bullets in a cartridge, like a clip. So they'll have a whole series, like a holster, of all these rods of God, as they call them, all ready to drop off one at a time. And what's happened is that those were deployed in the 1980s, and immediately these benevolent beings that have been policing us the whole time prevented the Illuminati from getting to those weapons. They could access them remote controlled, they could access the computer systems, but they were not allowed to get close to them. We don't exactly know what happened, whether they were not allowed to fly up to them or exactly what, but what we do know is they couldn't access these weapons at all, only by electronics, and they couldn't fire them. But they had them on reserve, and they were hoping maybe, just maybe, on a rainy day, if they still want to kill everybody on Earth and nothing else is going to work, oh, well, we still got the rods of God. We still got a few of these old Star Wars things. All that stuff has been cleaned out of our atmosphere. The cabal now has nothing left that they can kill us with. It's all been taken away from them. All their toys are gone. And I got a story that I'm going to put in my next article update on my website about how they got rid of this. There was a military satellite, old military U.S. satellite that just breaks down in the sky and came out of the sky, and they don't say why it happened. Now, the no-fly zone is one thing, but the space program has also colonized our solar system. So this gets into the next really weird thing, which is that they built a barrier, as it's now called, around the entire solar system. Now, what does that mean? That means there are still some stargates that they can use to go from colony to colony, because as I don't think I said this, but there's over 100 different moons in our solar system that have colonies on them of some kind. They do mining of the minerals they need to build these advanced craft, and then they have factory plants where they build the craft that they then sell on the international or interplanetary market, the Silk Road, which, as I said, remember, we got that nice gas station right near the big old portal that everybody's got to go through to get out of our galaxy. So now what happened was the Dark Fleet, all these reptilian beings, they were outside the solar system when the barrier went up. There were hardly any of them here, so they're locked out. And they can't get back in. And nobody in can get out. The stargates don't work. If you try to fly out of here, you get shot down. So some of them can go around from colony to colony in the solar system, but they now are terrified because there's these gigantic spheres here, there's all these new beings here, and they know that they're going to stand trial and they're going to be arrested. And we're going to see something that is so mind-blowing. The full unraveling of the Illuminati agenda, along with it comes all of a sudden, bam, we go into a Star Trek society in which money is obsolete. You need, yeah, isn't that cool? If you have a replicator, why do you need to pay for some? If you want to sweep the floor, just 3D print a broom, and when you're done, put it back in the replicator, close the door, and it goes away again. If you buy a car, if you're lucky, you'll get the old hand-me-down UFO flying saucer, right? You never need to fill it up with gas. You don't need to pay for anything. Everything we have is taken care of. So you don't need the money system, and without the money system comes no need for control. Let me leak another thing. I'm just getting myself in as much trouble as I can here. The good guys in the alliance, in the NSA, because every group within the government has good people in it, including the NSA, believe it or not, they created the Bitcoin so that when the Illuminati destroys the Federal Reserve note, they just back up our currency with Bitcoins just like that. Because the Bitcoin cannot be defrauded. That's why the cabal has so aggressively gone after the Bitcoin and killed everybody who tries to do a Bitcoin exchange. Then you're going to say, well, David, wait a minute. They're going to run out of Bitcoins. Then they make Bitcoin 2. And then Bitcoin 3. So the Bitcoin was designed by the Alliance so that if the Illuminati tries to torch the dollar, that there will still be a way for money to be exchanged in the short term. But if people are thinking about, oh, we're going to repatriate the gold that the cabal stole and we're going to free up the global collateral accounts, maybe for a couple of years that's going to matter, but not even. I mean, we're looking to change much bigger than just, oh, I hope they're going to do a debt jubilee, or I hope they're going to bump the dinar up. Oh yeah, I got dinars. I got 100,000 dinars, man. I can't wait. Guess who has all the dinars that they're selling to you? The Bush cartel. They got them when they invaded Saddam Hussein. They took them right out of his royal palace. You buy dinars, you're financing the Bush operation. A lot of people don't know that. I'm still alive, right? Nobody's... Okay. So Bitcoin is a good thing. Short-term stopgap against... And now you have the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, or AIIB, which is the offshoot of BRICS, making an alternative financial system so that we don't have the dollar dominating global currency and commerce. So this barrier has been constructed around the solar system. Most of the entire dark fleet was gone. They can't get back in, so the people that are still here are stranded and they're stuck and there's nothing they can do. And nobody can get in, nobody can get out, and they can't even get communications in and out. This is all, of course, building up to mass arrests, some kind of Nuremberg-style trial on a very, very vast scale. Isn't that amazing? So we are looking at a fundamental change in our society on a massive, massive scale, unlike anything we could imagine.